Welcome to this week's edition of Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, Luke, Stephen and KJ with you. Plenty to discuss this week and a couple of great guests coming your way as well. Toronto FC's Jonathan Osorio, fresh off getting a couple of assists in the 3-0 win against Vancouver on Tuesday, will be joining the show a little later on. And we'll be live with Whitecaps head coach Marc Dos Santos as well, as we look back on what happened at BMO Field Tuesday and look ahead to what will happen tomorrow night when the two teams meet again on Friday night at BMO Field. But boys, I think just looking back on the game Tuesday and just the general experience to kick things off, it was just nice to be back in a stadium after what was a great MLS's back tournament. Calling it in the studio, though, never quite the same, Stevie.
No, it isn't it? Look, I mean, it was weird and eerie, I guess, being at BMO Field, but still a great pleasure to be there live. I think KJ succinctly said it best in one of his hits, where he said, you know, the pleasure of being there and the kind of how lucky we are to actually be live at the game when thousands and thousands of people wish they were supporting in the stands is not lost on any of us, is it, guys? And we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great experience. Obviously, we'd love it to be 30,000 fans and more noise and more people involved, but it's a great step and it's great to be back, KJ.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't lost on any of us, was it? You know, I actually was probably sitting in somebody's seat where I was positioned as well. I wasn't able to be near you guys, but the fact that we were there to broadcast the game, just I think, you know, for me, obviously, it was a sad night because there's so many people who wanted to be there, but at the same time, it's a night for a bit of a celebration because at least we've got these games happening and people can watch us on TSN and watch the games, and that is better than the alternative, which would be no games at all. So, you know, ultimately, we were able to get the games on the air, which was really good. And you know, as I said, we missed the fans being there as well. It was difficult to not have them there, but I think also we're able to always, just as broadcasters, produce something better when we're inside the stadium, not only for the connection to the people there, but I mean, you guys are, you know, the best, in my opinion, at calling a game in Major League Soccer, but you can do it better when you're inside the stadium, you know, and we can deliver messages and find out a bit more information and see things more when we get that opportunity and privilege that we shouldn't obviously lose sight of.
Was a bit strange seeing you so far away from the people you were interviewing, KJ. We got a couple of shots on TV, but for those that didn't quite see it, you were basically, 10, 15 rows back in the stands. Yeah. Then there's the steps that go down and the gap towards the bench where they put the microphone up. And there was a speaker down there, wasn't there? So that whoever you were interviewing on the touchline could hear you through a speaker.
Yeah, I was quite surprised how far away it was. There was a speaker there. You know, Marc Dos Santos won't mind me sharing this, but we had to have a second take for my pre-match interview with Marc because I asked him a question and he just, at one point, just said, "This is ridiculous. I can't do this. You're too far away to talk to. I can't be doing this." And then we had to go again. And there, you know, I'm sure people saw live. I got a few messages about how it was handled, but you know, Greg Banney's interview to start the second half was very difficult because, you know, we're going to try and sort this out on Friday night, but for whoever's pleasure it was, the music was blaring so loud into the stadium through the tannoy that he could barely hear me on the speaker. But we got through it in the end, and look, the most important thing was that we were able to bring some kind of normality to the situation.
Was the brilliant Jess Chamara from TFC sort of translating between you to Greg? Because I saw her near you, KJ.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, there was a few things happening down there, I think. Yeah, there's a few. Jess was there, and obviously Alejandro was there as well from the PR team, and you know, Brent, who was my guy helping me out with all the stuff down there. So those situations, obviously we know this, but there's situations where some people were allowed to be and some people weren't as well. So it was all meticulous.
Yeah, we didn't actually see you apart from, you know, you being down there in the back of your head on Tuesday night. We weren't actually allowed to connect as we were in different zones of the stadium.
My camera was across the stadium, actually. My camera I had to look at was across on the opposite side of the stadium, if anyone cares about that as well. And at one point, I had to wait for the tally light to come on to know when I was on camera. So I was looking across the stadium to know that.
Well, someone did suggest that actually you'd be in a much better position if you went in the upper deck of the stand on the far side, in between me and Stevie, because we are distanced in the booth and you can see the maple leaf behind us. So if you just go and take up a position there, we don't even need to have the extra camera. We can just see you in the background, and sure. That's probably the best. I'm just grateful, Stevie. I'm just grateful, Stevie, that I'm over my mild hypothermia from the other day, because I had been I'd been so worried about whether or not I was going to be able to be let in with a temperature check. If I'd be too hot to get into the stadium and call the game. As it turns out, they do the temperature thing. I come on at 33.6, which I think that's a bit low. That's a bit weird. Half an hour later, Stevie arrives. He's like, you'll never guess. I was 33.6. That seems a bit cold. So anyway, I Google it up and it says, if you're between 32 and 35 degrees temperature, you have mild hypothermia. If it drops below 32, contact a doctor immediately. So not quite sure what was going on there, but maybe it was the AC that I had blasting on all the way down.
Just a couple of cool customers.
Well, it could just be that, Stevie, hey?
I did not feel cool because I'd walked through that faraway car park. I'd sweat all over my brow and my big backpack with all my stuff in it. And I felt like, oh my, I could be a little high here. I was a bit concerned. Then the 33.6 came up. And I'm like, I'll take it. Just quickly got my wristband on and got upstairs before they could challenge it.
Well, hopefully we're warmed up or just the right temperature in time for the game on Friday night. We'll get into what happened on Tuesday and what might happen Friday, especially with Marc Dos Santos coming up and Jonathan Osorio as well. But a huge story for Canadian soccer. A couple of huge stories with Canada now knowing the path forward in the World Cup qualifying, the teams that they've been drawn against. But I want to start off with Alphonso Davies, KJ, because we talked a little bit about this on SportsCenter yesterday. There isn't any understating just what it means for Canadian soccer to have him appearing for this national team on behalf of this national team in this country in a UEFA Champions League men's final. Of course, we've seen it happen before with the likes of Ashley Lawrence, Kadisha Buchanan in the Women's Champions League. But for a men's international to do it, a Canadian, and the way he's done it, to get there with Bayern Munich and now be the center of attention on Sunday in the biggest game in club football, and with the eyes of the world on him against PSG, what a story it is for Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, and I think the best way to tell it, and we're all by nature trying to do, storytellers, and we have different audiences. We have fabulous people joining us here every week that I would say are outstandingly educated fans. So, I won't go too much into what I'm about to say, but I just did an interview with Scott Stinson, our friend from the Globe and Mail, about it. And obviously on SportsCenter, sometimes we're asked to educate a little bit more than the viewer. But you mentioned it. It's the greatest stage in club football. It's what Stevie and I have talked about so often, our great memories. It is the fabulous European Cup. Call it whatever you want. It's the European Cup that's been awarded since 1956 in Paris. We've all got the memories of the greats lifting it, whether it was before the Champions League badge put on it and UEFA put the anthem there. It's still the brilliant stage. It's the greatest stage of all for a club footballer. Arguably the second biggest game in the world behind the World Cup final. And the fact that there's a Canadian men's national team player playing for the fact that to try and win that European Cup for the first time is special. I put a tweet out yesterday. 62 different countries have been represented since 1956.
You were pretty good on your flag emoji game there on that tweet yesterday.
Thanks, mate.
I mean, you must have been preparing that one for days, KJ.
Well, it's research, right? You look ahead for storylines for a while, so it's work. But it's I think it just speaks to the nature, and my job is and all of us is to try and explain how big of a story this is. And the fact that Canada flag will join that because of Alphonso Davies is remarkable, Stevie, because it is, as we said, a very, very special time for Canadian soccer. But the game itself is enormous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the biggest club game in the world. There's no doubt about it. And, there's nothing like playing for your country. Unfortunately, Alphonso does that for Canada, but fortunately, I should say. But the thing is, when you're playing for your club, to be involved in a game of that magnitude with players around you like he's playing with Bayern Munich, I think they're the best team in the world. Going to find out. It's going to be a magnificent game. I think we've got the best final as well, guys. I have to say that PSG have came good at the right time, but the lad's he's not just getting by. He's not worrying if he's going to be in Hansi Flick's team on Sunday afternoon, our time. He knows he's going to be in the team, and he knows because he's been so consistent. He's been so good in his performances. So I think that's the biggest compliment, the way he's fitted in with that level of player and the way that he's playing so maturely as well. I have to say that he's played a few times at left back, Alphonso, in terms of his Canadian national team career, and it's just some good and bad moments, but he was a young kid and we wondered if he would ever mature into being a good defender and a guy who could be consistent both attacking and defending in that position. And he's showing all the signs of that now. His pace is phenomenal. It gets him out a lot of problems, not because he's necessarily out of position, because he's asked to play high, he's asked to be that outlet on the left-hand side. His pace can get him back, but I see a lot of maturity in his positional play as well, Luke. I think he's a guy who's really learning that position very, very well, and he's poised to be, if he's not already, the best left back in world football in the not so distant future.
And Luke, quickly, the other thing just to add, he's only the 5th player from this region to ever play in that game, in that final. You know, Dwight York.
You mentioned some of those names yesterday.
Dwight York for Manchester United, obviously from Trinidad and Tobago. Keylor Navas, obviously the Costa Rican goalkeeper, played in multiple finals for Real Madrid. Javier Hernandez for Manchester United as well. And Rafa Marquez. That's it. So just the 5th player from the CONCACAF region to play for the European Cup, which is fantastic. And
Navas got that injury, of course, kept him out of the last round. I haven't actually seen whether or not he's in contention or has been ruled out for the final, but you have the possibility of 2 CONCACAF players playing in the Champions League final. Presumably then, with what you just said, KJ, that would be the first time that that's happened in the same game if 2 CONCACAF players start the Champions League final. Where do you play him then, Stevie? If you are John Herdman right now and you're looking at, it's something we'll talk about a little later on in terms of the group that came out for Canada for the first stage of World Cup qualifying. They now know the path they've got to take. And we don't know where these games will be played, under what conditions, what players will be available to John Herdman due to the fact that there's a global pandemic going on at the moment. But say you've got your full squad and you're going into an important game. You talked about Alphonso Davies being the best left back or one of the best left backs in the world. But that's not necessarily the place that he can play for Canada. How do you approach that if you're John Herdman in terms of what you need from Alphonso Davies and how you get the best out of him, having played at that level in the Champions League and for Bayern Munich on a weekly basis as a left back?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, Luke. I think it's also important first to recognise that there's going to be enormous pressure on this lad, a different kind of pressure. Obviously, you play for Bayern Munich. You've got the weight of wearing that shirt and the tradition and the history of the football club. But when he's playing for Canada, people are going to expect that exact same player in the red of Canada. And I think that's important to recognise, that it's not going to be as easy for Alphonso to be as influential. And so I'm going to answer the next question by saying that John Herdman will play him wherever he can be most influential in any given game. Now, I can see him playing almost every position for Canada before he retires from the national team. I really believe that. I can see him playing in behind strikers. I can see him playing as a forward, as he already has. I see him playing left wing back, left back. Maybe eventually, as he gets older, with his size and stature, he'll play some games at centre half. So you've nearly went through the entire field there. You know, staying off maybe a right back position would be the only one that he probably won't play from, the start of the game. But I think that it's important that we try and get the best out of Alphonso, Jonathan David, our few stars, put them into the right areas that they're going to be most effective, because they have the versatility, these guys. Johnny David, we'll get to more in a minute, maybe scored obviously in one of the friendlies for Lille, so he's up and running at his new club. He can play on the right, he can play on the left, he can play as a number 9, plays a number 10. KJ and I went through it all last week where we think he's best, but he's effective in a lot of areas. I think Alphonso's the same. So for me, it will be an accumulation of different things. It will be the assessment of the opposition. It will be where we need the most for the Canadian national team, and then ask him to go out there and enjoy his football. Try not to take too much weight on his shoulders at 19, 20 years old. Give him some time to play 300-400 games in Europe, and then obviously we'll be expecting, I think, a great deal from Alphonso. But at the start, let's just respect that this guy's still learning the game, and it's not going to be as easy for Canada as it is when he's playing for Bayern Munich.
I think it's all great points. I would just quickly add this, that I think, there's going to be a lot of discussion about Alphonso's best position on the field. And I think we can turn it around and say, what's his best position inside that dressing room? And Alphonso Davies' success at Bayern Munich has come because of the level of acceptance from the great players around him. He arrived at Bayern Munich overawed and meeting players that he played on a PlayStation game. And the moment that Robert Lewandowski and Thomas Muller and Jerome Boateng and Manuel Neuer and many others, Diego Alcantara, started to look at him and go, he can do this for me and this for this team, his confidence has soared. So now he goes into an environment for Canada where he's the best player. He is now Robert Lewandowski. So what can he do for the other players? And I know he's still only 19, but that is enormous. That is an enormous part that he can provide. that when he starts leaning on those players and say, yeah, you can help me, even though he's still that young of an age, that's the key thing that we can talk about. That's the position that we can elevate the Canadian soccer game. The fact that he's bringing that kind of reference point from those brilliant world-class players to that dressing room, about how you can get out of difficult times, difficult moments in games, how you can go forward and be that confidence. And I think he can bring that even at 19.
It's Footy Talks presented by Benjamin Moore. We're looking ahead to tomorrow night's game between Toronto FC and Vancouver Whitecaps, and back to what happened on Tuesday at BMO Field as well. Delighted to be joined by Jonathan Osorio a little later in the show, TFC midfielder. And right now, Vancouver Whitecaps head coach Marc Dos Santos is joining us, as the Whitecaps have been in Toronto the last few days after arriving in town late Monday to prepare for that game Tuesday. And it's quite a road trip for them at this moment in time, as they will continue with the road games after they play in BMO Field on Friday night. They'll go to Montreal. So 3 road games in 8 days as this little stretch continues where it's all Canadian teams playing against each other. Marc, great to see you. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join us here on Footy Talks. We were just chatting about Alphonso Davies and what he's been able to accomplish this week. As somebody who's been involved in the game in this country for such a long time, and obviously is so well-versed in the Canadian game, growing up, looking at some of the achievements that players have had, Canadian players around the world, what does it mean to you and to this country to see potentially on Sunday for the first time in the Men's Champions League, a Canadian men's international taking that pitch?
It's huge. It's a huge step forward. I think what we lack in our country is that our young players have references and guys to look up to. And now we have, not only with Alphonso Davies, that has been at the top, probably right now one of the best in his position in the world. And you also have a kid like Jonathan Davies, also transferred to Lille. And I know how much Lille does their homework to bring players in. It starts to give references to our young players. And that's what we have in Canada for hockey. And we slowly are starting to get that with soccer. So if Bayern Munich is able to win the Champions League, and pictures out there of a Canadian kid that grew up in one of the MLS clubs and lifting a trophy like that, it's going to create an impact in the younger players moving forward. It's huge.
And you'll have your fingers crossed for that because of what it does for Canadian soccer, but also reports in Bild, the German newspaper, Mark, that the Whitecaps get €1 million if Alphonso Davies wins the Champions League. Is that true?
Then if I answer, people are going to say, where's that money going? So I'm here to coach the team and not to talk about money.
Mark, let me follow up, though, about the development of Canadian young players. Obviously, Alphonso Davies, as you said, is a wonderful player to look up to. But is it not important also that those young players see the process of how hard he worked to get there? That it's not just simply a player that graduated from Major League Soccer to go and then start performing to Bayern Munich. I think it's important that we all continue to discuss just how hard work it is and the dedication to the craft that Alphonso and Jonathan are showing to elevate themselves to that level in Europe that other Canadians would have to do if they want to follow that path.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's the testimony of people that worked with him. Me, I don't want to be a guy that jumps on the Davies wagon because I didn't work with Phonsy. So I think a lot of people that worked with him have to come out and really talk about how much and what he did. Talks with our performance team, with John Poley here, that talks a lot about the type of guy he was before training and after training. And these people have to share with our young players. They have to share in the academies. They have to share also the sacrifice you said about, you mentioned also Jonathan Davies, the sacrifice of him packing and going to Belgium when some people were not taking him in the pro clubs around here. And now he's a special player. So that sacrifice of being able to take a risk to almost overtrain to become better, That's the only way we're going to move forward. And there's a little bit too much. What lacks, I think, in our young players is there's a huge comfort zone. There's a lack of opportunity also for our young players. And there's also a lack of references. Now, it's up to the clubs to provide opportunities, and it's up to players like Phonsy or Jonathan to create an impact in such a way that now our young players have references and guys to look up to.
Mark, what do you think we've improved in the development system? I know you've came up with some great points there, but I look at your academy and the success you're having, Alphonso coming through that, thinking of Pichile and Facineri, who did so well at the U17 World Cup, TFC of a Jaden Nelson. So, every club's starting to get these little gems starting to show and some kind of progression. Is it the mental side? Have we learned that? Is it the pathway? Or is it just an accumulation of everything, the reference points that you mentioned that are meaning that the success is going to come, and how successful can we be? Can we start to create more and more Davids and Davies for the system, for the Canadian teams, and obviously for the national team?
Steve, I could talk about this for hours, because I think there's too many specialists that say, no, it's easy. You develop better coaches that coach the young players, and so many people have ideas and programs. But at the core, I think when we look at things at the core, we have to look at what happens in other countries. What happens in other countries that are successful with young players is that they have tons of references for them. They play the game thinking about, today I'm going to be Maldini. Today I'm going to be Pirlo, Ronaldo, Messi. They play with references. We don't have enough of that in Canada. I met in my career, and you probably had that when you played in MLS, guys playing in pro clubs that don't like the game. They don't want to watch Champions League. They want to watch the Seahawks against the 49ers. It's a reality in MLS. It happens in MLS. So there's a lack of, and we have to say the truth, references help. That's why Phonsy and that's why David are going to help our young players. What I think we need is what MLS has brought, and even the CPL. You're talking about Facineri that played in the U17 World Cup, great experience. Us loaning him to Ottawa, having the CPL where he played his first game on loan to Ottawa yesterday, having minutes to grow. When you look at the opportunity of Max Crepeau that he had in Ottawa before he came to Vancouver, if Max would have stayed as a number 3 or number 2 in Montreal, maybe he would have never had that opportunity, and look at the talent we would have lost. So I think for Canada to become better, we need those references that are now happening. We need opportunity for our young players, and we also need the clubs that give those opportunities, and we need more of that. I think that's the path towards having a more successful pool of players.
What you were just saying there, Mark, reminds me of a story of, it was back in 2008 when John Carver came across from England to take charge of Toronto FC. You know him well from Newcastle, Stevie, and he was incredulous when he walked into the locker room after training one day and found the players watching NBA on the televisions in there. And he left them in no uncertain terms about, if you're in here and you're working, if something's on the television, it's soccer, because you've got to immerse yourself in the culture. And that was one of the things he found that was the hardest to deal with as he was coming into the country back then in 2008. The fact that it's not that 24/7 just desire, the hunger for soccer. That's something I miss here as opposed to what you grow up with in England. But just bringing it back to you and where you are now, Mark, with the Whitecaps, that game on Tuesday night, you've got another one coming up on Friday. How's the response been from your players after the performance Tuesday and the defeat at BMO Field?
Yeah, the response, you can only give it on Friday, because the response today and yesterday was heavy, because everything about the game was wrong for us. Everything was bad. I can't find one apart from we defended well overall on set play situation. that I take that piece as a positive, but you have to be very frontal when games like that happen and analyze things when games like that happen and be extremely direct and not hide. We cannot hide. Everything was wrong. Every time we had the ball, we gave it away, but in a cheap way, in a very, very cheap way. Our lines were very far from each other defending. I felt that our last game, having pretty much all of the options, was in the beginning, the first week of March. And then we pressed pause there 5 months and a half ago. And then we had 5 months and a half of total disruptive environment, not between the relationships in the club, but just some of the group going into Orlando, another one staying, quarantine, training home, not being able to go to the training facility. We only had 5 training sessions altogether. It's been 5 months and a half of disruptive environment. And then where I was totally wrong as a coach is I thought that I just press play again from March and we continue our process. And there I was wrong, because I had to come back to baby steps of doing things right first when we don't have the ball, then slowly growing in our pressure and what we do when we have the ball. And all that is not on the players. It's only on me.
Marc, I got a couple of questions for you. I'll ask you the second one in a minute, more about the coach, but I want to ask the first one about you, the man. Obviously, this is now the second season for you as the main man at the Whitecaps. How has this process been for you? Having covered the game for over a couple of decades, I know talking to coaches, it can be extremely consuming. How has it been handling it with your own personal life? Have you changed at all? How's everything going with you in terms of you continue to stick to your own principles?
I came from a lot of winning. That was my first 10 years was a lot of environments of winning and winning. And even as an assistant coach was a lot of winning. And now the last year and a half, there's a lot of losing. But I stay, as a man, I stay very grounded to the reality of the ups and downs of the job. You know, I get motivated by coaches like, I'll give you an example. Mauricio Sarri, before having his first big job, he got so many relegations and 8 times fired. Or Jorge Jesus, he was 56 years old before he coached his first big team. And all coaches that had success, you have to accept that you'll get in your career moments that are lows. But what I want to live as a person is, how are you in the low moments? And I never want to project towards you guys, media, or people that comment that I'm a guy that breaks, that finds excuses, that talks about, oh, I would love to have a player like this or like that. No, I'm here to find solutions with the group I have and give everything I have every day. That's the only thing I can control. And I love that. I love that adrenaline. Look, I share, everybody knows about that. I'm a big Formula One fan. And I think if I wasn't a soccer coach, I would have been a Formula One driver. I like to be in an intense moment, hard curves, everything all in, fast. And I'd love to live my life like that. So when things are more difficult, you can break. You need to be in front of the group, find solutions, giving your best. That's what you could control as a coach.
Appreciate the honesty. And as a coach, when you first joined the Whitecaps, you said the first thing that you wanted to do was to bring a model of play, the behaviors, the principles. Do you have that model of play now, and if not, why not?
Yeah, we had. No, this is a great question. I felt that after everything we did in San Diego and in Portland and the beginning of the season, I felt this is exactly where I want this club to go. I felt we were going in the direction. I knew what we would do in the transfer market, talking with Axel, what's our next pieces. And then when everything stopped and the break and going to Orlando the way we did, we totally lost that identity. And right now, we're in search of our identity again. It's the truth. To say that we're a team that has an identity, knows what to do. No, right now we're in search of it again. And I hope and I believe that on Friday, we have to be very humble in our approach. We have to be very pragmatic in our way we approach the game, because the quality and the talent in Toronto is higher than us right now. And you guys have been in the game. To say, if me being here and say, no, we have more quality, more talent, I'm lying to you guys. They have more quality, they have more talent. So how can we, with our weapons, counter that, do well when we don't have the ball, stay very close to each other, and from there, giving ourselves to win. We're playing a team that hasn't lost a regular season game in their last 16 matches. So it tells you a little bit of the quality they have. They went to 3 finals in the last 4 years. So our approach needs to be smart. And when I talk about baby steps, it's first, we can't concede the amount of opportunities we concede. We have to do much better defensively, and then slowly grow from that.
So how difficult is that, Mark? You know, you're a coach with a clear identity. You know how you want to play. You get to a club, you realise you maybe don't have the pieces. You have to try and get results. It's every head coach's job to try and get wins. And I guess what I'm asking is, like, where's the line between trying to win games and keeping your values and your sort of, I guess, tactics as a coach? You know, how difficult has that been? Is it frustrating for you? And how do you manage that?
The most frustrating thing for a coach is to have to play in a way that he believes could bring results better, but goes a little bit against his values as a coach. And it's very clear what I want, how I would like to play, and how I see the game played. And I've shared a lot of times that the teams that were closer to that and how I see the game is teams like Liverpool or Flamengo or River Plate of last season. If you followed them in the Libertadores, these are the teams that I myself identify more with. But then there's, like you said, there's where you're at today with the group that you have today. What we have to do is by steps. And the most frustrating part for us was I felt we were going in that direction after we left San Diego and the tournament in Portland. First 2 games of the season, last result against the Galaxy, and how we played in LA also. And then it fell apart. It fell apart for a lot of different reasons. And then you have to kind of take the pieces off the ground and slowly rebuild it again. That's just where we are.
Marc, so much more we could talk about, but we're out of time. We hopefully get you on again sometime in the future. Thanks so much for your time today. Good luck with your preparations for tomorrow night. We'll see you at BMO Field.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Marc Dos Santos, head coach of the Whitecaps, joining us on Footy Talks. Jonathan Osorio still to come. Some fascinating insight there from Marc Dos Santos, Stevie. And as Catherine says on the Zoom chat here, love the accountability and the hunger to do better as a coach.
Yeah, a raw and honest interview that. I could have spent an hour there, KJ. I'm sure you're the same. I had many follow-up questions that I'd love to have asked Marc. So we'll get to that more in a minute. I just feel... I feel for the guy a little bit. You know, he has a way that he wants to get going, and for some reason or another, and we could get into many issues. Some of them, I guess, are Marc Dos Santos' his problem, and some of the recruitment that he's brought in. But he just cannot get any momentum with that squad of players, KJ. He just cannot get into a style and start rolling along and trying to build something and feel like there's a continuity and a momentum there. I think he has constant doubts with his starting 11 because people are letting him down. I think he has constant doubts with his formation because a formation works 1 week and then the next week it's way off. And do they high press? Do they step off? Do they look defensive and try and counter-attack? We've seen just about everything from Marc Dos Santos, Vancouver Whitecaps, and I can see the frustration in his face. I think he's a guy that wants to be positive and wants to really create something to start it off, KJ, but it's not happening for him, and it needs to happen soon for him to try and build and get the Whitecaps into a place where everyone feels that they should be.
Yeah, he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the fronting up about the accountability of it all. I think it's clear, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know here, that they're very low in terms of talent. When you line up all 26 MLS teams on the wall and you pick every one of them in a row, they'll be one of the last ones to be picked if you wanted to pick a team that you're going to look at for talent. He knows that better than anybody, by the way, which is why he's playing that right now, that style. But as you said, they haven't gathered the momentum they need to gather going forward at the moment to get the best out of them. And I do think a club's identity is very important. And, what is the identity of that team? And as he said, you can't compare them to Toronto FC, but he needs to get the Whitecaps to a level, and the recruitment and everything is involved in this. The club needs to get to a level where they will punch above their weight. And right now they're not punching above their weight. And if you punch above your weight, then you can get to start challenging the likes of teams who consistently do that in MLS, like now the Red Bulls, Philadelphia Union, RSL. How do you get to that level? And when you get to that level, then you're closer to the elite. No one's asking you to compete with Toronto FC. But that, I think, as a Whitecaps fan, is what the next step you should be looking at. How do we get this group to punch above their weight consistently and challenge that group of players and that group of teams?
So with the critics, with guys like us ask, with the recruitment that he's had, and I know he's shopping in the bargain basement, when it comes to teams like LAFC and TFC and Seattle and these guys. But when he's brought in as many players as he has, and he's 18 months into the project, let's say 5 of them have been lost to COVID, should he be closer to that identity, KJ, than what he is? Why is he so far away? That's what I would ask. What do you think of that?
It's a fair question. First of all, I think that they got a lot of the recruitment wrong, and a lot of the players they signed last year are not there anymore. And that was, that's not
all of that's on him, to be fair.
It's not all on him. No, it's on the club. You've got to spread, back to my point earlier, you got to spread a lot further in terms of your net going forward, evaluating players, and not just sign players connected to, the fact that this player or this agency. So that's very important for that club to go out and recruit better, and a lot of those players failed. So it felt like, again, in 2020 they were starting again. I do agree with him. I think in the first 2 games of this season, they were a lot better than they were a lot last season. There's a lot to build on, but right now they're a long way away from where they want to be.
It's Footy Talks presented by Benjamin Moore, and Jonathan Osorio of Toronto FC and Canada joins us live on the show now. Jonathan Osorio back in action on Tuesday night with TFC after missing a large part of the tournament in Orlando through injury. Got a couple of assists in the 3-0 win against the Whitecaps. Great to see Jonathan. Thank you for being with us once again. How are you doing? We good? It seems like you're still on mute right now.
I think Mark was having the same problems.
You got us? Can you hear us?
We just can't hear Jonathan right now, so we'll try and work that one out and get back to Jonathan in just a couple of moments' time. But for TFC, we haven't actually got into detail too much yet about the performance on Tuesday night, and for Pablo Piattti as well to get those couple of goals. It was a pretty good display and some good football. Jonathan, can you hear us now? Okay.
He can hear us.
Okay, we still can't hear Jonathan, so maybe we'll reboot and try and get him back, producer Kev. Stevie, what did you think of TFC with that the performance, the way they played on Tuesday?
I thought they were really good, Luke. I thought they moved the ball really quickly. I liked the way that they were spacing the pitch. I felt that they really, I guess they really got at the vulnerabilities of the Whitecaps. They really found that space in between the lines. I mean, Mark spoke about it there, that the Whitecaps were off in terms of their distances between their midfield and their defence, but TFC did a wonderful job, KJ, getting in between the gaps. Everyone was more than satisfactory, in my opinion. We'll get Jonathan on in a minute, and I thought he was exceptional, especially at start, just to set the tone, getting on the ball, getting it moving. Potsuelo then comes into it. Piattti had his moments as well, and Altidore, for me, looked pretty fit up front. I felt he was putting himself about and trying to get the minutes under the legs to get up to top speed, and all in all, I think a very comfortable performance. I think the complacency factor was probably brought home at half time. Do not let this drop. Do not, take the foot off the gas. They didn't do that in the slightest for me. They just kept going the entire game, controlling the tempo, and 700 passes, was it? Something like that. And number of final third entries that you put out on your Twitter, KJ, was incredible for TFC, and an all-round quality performance from them.
Yeah, I think it was a performance that Greg Vanney wanted, wasn't it? I think it was one that he obviously had leaned on the team to produce after the Florida performance, and ultimately one that they were excellent from whistle to whistle, right from the start to finish. And as you said, the ability to get into the spaces was tremendous, and you can see the combinations are there. And these players haven't played that many minutes together as an 11, but Pablo Piatti was magnificent. He played in a bit of a different role, didn't he?
Yeah,
as well. I like that role a little bit more. He was a bit wider. And they got the best out of him, and it has to be said, another good move by Greg Vanney on that one as well. But as you said, the spacing was tremendous, and this man joining us now, if he can speak to us, maybe he can talk about it. Maybe it was another man of the match performance. So can you hear us? Okay, let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah. Great, we got you.
You can hear me? Yeah, we got you fine.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening.
It's all good. All good. You're allowed to miss pass every now and again,
Yeah.
Thank God you're better on the football field than you are with the technical side of a laptop.
That's for sure. I can't argue that.
Before we get into the game, there was a great story that we showed on the TSN pregame show. You and Lucas Cavallini, your backstory. KJ had done interviews with both of you, and Lucas Cavallini said in that interview that we had to bleep out his actual answer, but he said he would be coming for you. Stefania sent a question in. How did it feel with him tackling you so soon into the game?
Tackling? Was it a tackle?
Had you seen it coming? Were you expecting that?
Well, yeah. So for those who saw the interview, I think I predicted it. I predicted also a second yellow, which he was looking for, I think, and that didn't happen. But we both predicted it, so it was funny. I know how Luka plays. Luka plays like that normally, and it was just I think it was funny that it happened so early in the game.
It wasn't even close either. He was, that was something he committed to from a long way off. He wasn't trying to hide it.
It was funny. Thankfully, you were okay also. But I'm not admitting I laughed out loud when I saw it. I don't think I was the only one. Probably wants to make sure that you're okay. But after that, they didn't really get a kick on you, did they? It was a pretty exemplary performance by you guys.
Yeah. It was a strong performance by us. I think all around, a performance that we wanted and we were looking for. And now I think it's a performance that we want to build on. So, all around, just all over the pitch, I think, we are aggressive with them and we were smart in the way we attacked them and then our reactions to keep the ball, keep the pressure on them in their end. I think all those things we did really well.
How did you feel out there, Jonathan? You've had a long layoff, obviously not been at BMO Field for a while, and it looked like you had a massive smile on your face. You were buzzing around. That I could see that you had a spring in your step. Was it amazing to be back there and obviously not playing in front of the fans, but back at your home ground of BMO Field? Yeah,
it was nice. For me personally, I was very excited. This year has been, hard for everybody, but I was trying to get ready for the Orlando trip and actually came out of the lockdown and everything feeling really good. And I was excited to go into Orlando. Then I got injured. So that was tough to deal with. But, I got some minutes at the end of the New York City game. And so this game for me, I was very excited for. I was looking forward to it from the second it was announced. And then when I was on the pitch, I was just, I was full of joy, and I think I kind of expressed that during the match.
Absolutely.
We talked to Greg Vanney before the game. He was talking about the fact that there's that understanding. When I was doing my prep for the game on Tuesday, you look at the appearances in Major League Soccer, and the two midfielders alongside you with Marky and Michael are well over 150 appearances, like yourself, in Major League Soccer. Most of them have come of the three of you playing together in some form or another over the last couple of years. Greg Vanney, though, also talked about your relationship with Alejandro Pozuelo and the fact that you guys are on a very, very similar wavelength in terms of the relationship that you've built up. Is it almost like even though you've had that layoff, you're fitting into a system and back in around pieces that you're so familiar with that makes it so much easier?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been playing together for more than 4 years now, myself in the middle with Michael and Marky. So that's very familiar to us. We know each other's strengths. We know how to work off each other, and we know how to cover each other as well. So, that kind of never goes away now. I think that's just like habits. We have habits on the field now. We have a certain way of playing here at TFC now, and we've been a part of that from the beginning of when that was started to be established. And so, yeah, it's not hard to fit in after a long layoff. And then with Ponzuelo, with good players like that, it's really easy to connect with them. I think, if you find a good player at a park and you start to play with him, you're going to have a good relationship with him. It's the way football is. And so with Alejandro, it's easy. It's easy to play with him. And I thought he was great for us. He was finding really good spots and unlocking their defense at times very, very easily. So I think that helped with the flow of the game. And yeah, I think our relationship in the middle there is very good.
Yeah, I was doing some notes in my book here. 75 games now you, Mark, and Michael have started together. 8 Champions League games as well. CONCACAF Champions League in obviously 2018, you started every game. 2 MLS Cups as well. So the reference points are there. You mentioned Pozuelo, Jonathan. Obviously, people see what he's like on the pitch. What have you seen as his teammate this year? He's come back. I think we had Nick De Leon on and told us about a story that he's taking on a little bit more of a leadership role. How more comfortable is he now coming back after the break? And it seems like his English is getting better. He seems like he's had a bit more of a refreshing break. Have you seen notable changes in his character since he came back in 2020 at all?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think it's nothing drastic. I think he brought that character last year as well.
Right.
But because he's more comfortable this year, for sure, and I think him practicing more English has helped that as well. Being more vocal with the guys. So yeah, for sure. I mean, Ali's always been a leader. I think he was the captain of his team in Belgium. So it's not a role that he's unfamiliar with, and so he's definitely one of the leaders of our team, and he tries to give confidence to everybody on the pitch, and that's what we need from him. That's what we want from him, and it's helping us a lot, and I think it's helping him as well.
Jonathan, I want to talk about your good friend Richie Larea and your guys' relationship in that left-hand side, and what you've seen from him stepping in the absence of Justin Morrow, and in a position that I guess you guys are a bit light on in terms of left back. And Richie's development there has been exceptional. Greg Vanning spoke about it. I thought he had another fantastic game, maybe just behind you for man of the match in my opinion on Tuesday night. But the relationship between you guys and his development and versatility in both fullbacks positions now after starting as a midfielder is quite incredible, isn't it?
It's amazing. I think it was probably only last year that he started playing a wing back, and I remember actually in preseason he started as a winger higher up the pitch. So yeah, it's been amazing to see his development in that position, and now to switch over to the other side, onto a side where he's mostly maybe on his weaker foot, and he's adapted to it very, very well. I think the first game he played there, he scored against Montreal. So he's very dynamic, a very dynamic player. Very honest player. He's gonna give the team what you expect. And he gives us a lot of athleticism on that side, which helps in a team like ours. So yeah, Richie's doing so good. I tell him all the time, and he's a guy that wants to keep improving, and as long as he has that mentality, he has a lot further to go.
And just on Pablo Piatti, he hit the headlines obviously because of the goals that he scored on Tuesday night. Must have been an extremely difficult situation for him, moving across to a new country with a lockdown pretty much hitting very early into his time in Toronto, maybe away from family, friends, the usual surroundings. What's it been like with him settling in? Is he a vocal piece of the locker room as well? Is he a kind of quiet player who does his talking on the pitch? How's he fitting in with everybody?
No, he's vocal. He's not a shy guy at all, and he's trying to learn English, and he's the type of guy that will try. And I think we all respect that in the change room. Some people could be shy, knowing that they don't speak it very well, but he's not shy. He's not shy to try. It's been we start for him, just got that injury unluckily, and then with the lockdown, it's a lot of things to deal with, and it's not easy. But he's coming back in Orlando, gave us some good performances, and then finally that goal that I think he was really, really looking for, and I think these 2 goals are going to help his confidence and help his performance moving forward.
Also, let's turn to European football. I know how much you love Real Madrid. There's a little bit of a joke there with Lucas when he said he wanted to play for Barcelona, and you had a bit of a kid around with him. Should have gone back with him and said, "Look, mate, look, the kings of Spain right now." But maybe just talk about your team, Real Madrid. That you obviously you won another championship, and what that situation is for you, and maybe even how much you're looking forward to seeing Alphonso play on Sunday in the Champions League final.
Yeah. So I guess. Real Madrid. It's good that the league, of course. I think it's been a long time in Real Madrid's expectations. So it's good to get the league and be on top of Spain again. I think they have really good young players. They're going to be very exciting. And then along with, I've really been impressed with Karim Benzema. I think he's really stepped into a role that I think he doesn't get enough credit for what he does for his team. I think he's very well respected in the football world, and people know how good he is. I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. I think he's so important to that team, and I'm just so impressed with him. He looks like a leader out there, more like a leader than in previous years too. So I'm excited for Real Madrid. I'm very excited. I think they have to deal with a couple of transfers within the team to get out, and then transfers to come in. But I think they're heading in the right direction. Obviously they went out to a very good Man City team in Champions League, where I think some guys had bad games that you don't usually see have bad games. But no, I'm excited for Real Madrid. And with respect to Alphonso, I think we're all excited. We're all very, very, very excited for him. I feel it kind of feels like I'm in the Champions League final, to be honest. I swear, if he wins, that will feel like me winning. I swear. I honest to God, and I'll tell him that when I see him, and hopefully he wins. But if he wins, I think it's a win for Canada soccer, for sure. A huge win and a huge step forward. And for me, I feel like I win the Champions League too. So I hope it happens.
Brilliant. Was it strange also playing in front of the empty stands? And my next question is, obviously outside the stadium, but in the entrance to the C&E, there was a group of supporters with their flares and making some noise. Now, how special was that for you guys? Could you hear them during the game? And I saw you recognise them after the game, a few players, but amazing to see them come out and show their support from the opposite side of the closed stadium.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you can't ask for more as a player for fans like this that are willing to come to the stadium, maybe able to see the game and enjoy the game like they would from inside. Probably can't see the full pitch, but they come to make an impact and to give us a push. And I mean, this is football. This is football. This is like regular around the world, I think. And to see it here in Canada is amazing. And they know that the players love them, and we appreciate them. And for being out there and sacrificing, maybe enjoying the game just to make an impact on the game, and being loud as they were. It was incredible.
Just finally, Jonathan, before we run out of time here, the pathway set for Canada now in the first phase of World Cup qualifying under this new format. Suriname, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and Aruba. What are your thoughts heading towards that now? And does it all become a little bit more real now that that draw has happened and that these games are on the horizon now with Canada with a decent opportunity here to get through to that next stage and the chance to qualify for 2022?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely it's set. The groups have been drawn. Now we have our opponents to look forward to. It's a group that we have to win. You have to win to get out. So those are 4 very important games for us. Those are the 4 games we're looking forward to right now. And then when we get business done, then we can look forward to the next after that. But yeah, this is exciting. It's exciting to see to see the pathway now, a clear pathway. I think a more clear pathway than before to the World Cup, a more fair path, and we're excited. We're excited to go on that journey, and it starts with our 4 games in that, and it won't be easy, and we'll be ready, and we'll make sure to prepare in the right way.
Thanks, Jonathan. Great to have you with us and see you again here on Footy Talks. Really appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck tomorrow night against the Whitecaps.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Jonathan Osorio with us live on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, and that gets us to the do-it-yourself play of the game. No chance of Stevie picking this week a header by a defender, which was what happened last week with that MLS's Back tournament final. The Benjamin Moore do-it-yourself play of the game, Stevie. Even you can pick this one, surely, and get the right one this week.
A fluky strike by Pablo Piattti from 29.6 yards, I think it was. Absolutely magnificent goal. Easily the Benjamin Moore play of the game. This is absolutely brilliant. Jonathan Osorio's involved. It's coming up just about now. Condensed in the middle. KJ and I recognised he was playing wider than normal, but this is one of the times he comes inside. And KJ said in the half-time stuff that we were talking about that it's the ability to come in on that left foot that makes him so special. But what a strike, wasn't it, KJ? Just no chance for young Thomas Hassal. He was flying across his goal when the ball was almost hitting the side netting at that time.
Yeah, as I said, it's a rocket, and a great strike, and you don't see many of those in Major League Soccer. The speed off the boot is really impressive, and I think you see Russell Tybert there just doesn't shield him as much as he wanted. I don't think because he doesn't expect him to take that shot, and then I don't think Max Crepeau would mind me saying if Max Crepeau's in the goal, he's not saving that. It's just it's almost unsavable at Major League Soccer level. It's a fantastic strike, and I think it speaks about where we are in modern day soccer and modern day football a little bit, in terms of we're starting to see these coaches want to see these left-footed players, playmakers in wide areas start on the right-hand side, Stevie, and the right-sided players maybe start on the left. At Bayern Munich right now, they've probably got 2 right-sided players, but the emergence of Gnabry has been tremendous as well, and Coman. But I think that maybe just to put a bow on our conversation about people asking Alphonso Davies, where can he play and why is he not playing left wing? Well, if he graduates to the attacking side of the field, don't be surprised to see him playing maybe more right wing in the future than left wing for that very reason.
Yeah, it's just a tactical blueprint, isn't it? The teams where, everything's coming in the middle. They feel like they have their tacticians in the middle of the park. And so they want these guys coming in their strong foot to play little connections and 1-2s and the likes. And that's why Alphonso's so effective in the left back, because what does it do? It opens up a big channel in that side of the pitch when you drag the opponents in and he comes nice and late and gets down the side. So, with regards to Piattti, I did like that little bit of tweak to the tactics from Greg Vanney, where he was wide a lot as well, where Alvaro was inside, and anytime Piattti came inside, of course, Alvaro then becomes that width option for TFC. But the movement, the interchange, Pozzuelo, Osorio, Altidore, Piattti, so exciting for TFC, and I know it's not going to be easy on Friday night. I'll tell you, I think it'll be a much tougher game for them. It'll be more clogged up, but if they keep up that form and that mentality, how quickly they were moving the ball, they're going to be a match for anybody with the quality players that they have.
As was mentioned earlier in the show, TFC without a regular season defeat since last August, but that's 16 matches now unbeaten in the regular season. It's the first time in franchise history they have started a season unbeaten in 6 regular season games. But we expect a response from Marc Dos Santos and his team after what we heard from the coach a little earlier on in the show. TFC getting set to face the Whitecaps Friday night. We'll have it for you on TSN. The pregame show starts at 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 4:30 Pacific. We will see you all then. But for now, thanks so much for joining us here on Footy Talks. We'll see you again same time next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.